Always a pleasure to be here. Nothing controversial today, I hope. But to see the growth and expansion of this wonderful moisid, the uniqueness of this moisid in this metropolis of Torah that's called Brooklyn is something that's really very encouraging. And just a few thoughts. I neglected to ask what time is it. What time is dinner? Okay, anyway.
So when you're done,
you know,
you're supposed to finish.
It's almost Shmuess. Shmuess is a very unique anniversary. It literally celebrates the seminal event, the most critical event in all of human history, all of human destiny. The one and only time that the Creator, after having clearly identified his role as the Creator in all of the nisim that he did in Mitzrayim and on the Yam Suf, brings an entire nation, Klal Yisrael, who eventually will be charged with teaching the world the message that they receive at Sinai, brings them together to this humble mountain. In the earshot of the entire Klal Yisrael, speaks directly to Moshe Rabbeinu. The Pasuk says, "Hinei anochi bo elecha ba'av he'onon, ba'avur yishma ha'om b'dabri yimoch v'gam b'chol yamim lo'ilom." I'm coming to you in the thickness of this cloud, in order that everybody hears that I speak to you directly, and they'll believe in you forever, that you are my true Novi, that you are my true spokesman, that you are to be relied upon to give over that Torah that I'm going to teach you at our Sinai. And then the Borei Olam introduces himself to all of the assembled nation. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, Shalom Aleichem. I am Hashem Elokecha asher tzisicha me'eretz Mitzrayim. I took you out of Mitzrayim. All the nisim, everything that you saw, all the hashgocha protis, it was all, I did it, clear as could be. A idea by Aminu B'Hashem U'Moshe Avdoi that was consummated on the Yam Suf. And then he begins to speak to them, and tells them the message, the purpose for which he created the world, the purpose for which he took them out of Mitzrayim, and maybe even the purpose for which he put them into Mitzrayim. All revealed publicly to an entire nation. And we, of course, have the privilege of being the recipients of a Messiah that was passed down from generation to generation, from that first generation of eyewitnesses who themselves heard the Borei Olam speaking, who themselves heard the Borei Olam speaking to Moshe Rabbeinu, and then to them, and passing it down, writing it in the document, which clearly testifies that they witnessed these events themselves, not that they heard them hearsay from another generation, and they passed this down, and this document, and this Messiah, and this Torah with the Torah Shemal Peh was passed down from generation to generation to this very day. And you and we today, thousands of years, 3,300 years plus later, are privileged to study that same Torah, to read from the written document, and to study the Torah Shemal Peh, just as it was passed down from generation to generation, mi-Moshe mi-Pi'atura. So it's a tremendous day, a tremendous event, tremendous anniversary that we celebrate. And everything that exists in the world, and any morality that does exist, and there's not too much left of that, it's all based on this Torah. And if you open up any high school textbook, they'll tell you that this is the gift that the Klal Yisrael gave to the world. So it's a very special occasion. And it requires a little bit maybe of introspection and reflection and focus on what it is, in fact, that we have. And how proud and how privileged, how excited we should be that this is our chelik, that this is our Yerusha, that this is our Mesorah, Ashreinu Matei. It's very interesting, Ralbag. The Ralbag in Parshas Yisro says something which is very difficult almost to comprehend. He says that originally the Rebbeinu Shalom did not want Moshe Rabbeinu to teach the Torah to Klal Yisrael. He wanted to teach it all himself. Not just the first two Dibros, not just the Aseres of Dibros, but all the mitzvahs, everything, the entire Torah. Why? Because he was concerned that maybe Klal Yisrael would have some sofek about the accuracy or the authenticity of Moshe Rabbeinu's teaching. They might think, maybe Moshe got it wrong, maybe he misunderstood something, maybe he forgot something, who knows? And therefore he wanted to teach the Torah from Bereshit until Einei Chol Yisrael and everything to the Klal Yisrael directly. And it's only, it seems, that Rambam holds that he taught that he said the whole Aseres HaDibros. And only after they said, Daber Ato, they told Moshe, Daber Ato imonu v'dishmo, v'ani daber imonu v'elekim penos. Moshe, you speak to us, we'll listen. Because we're afraid if we listen to Hashem, if he speaks to us, we're going to die. Only then did he agree to let Moshe Rabbeinu take over and teach the rest of the Torah that he's going to teach. But even that had a stipulation. The stipulation was, Ralbag says, that since all of the mitzvahs HaTorah are merumas in the Aseres HaDibros, I can now rely that they'll believe it even if Moshe says it. Because they'll hear it from Moshe, and then they'll be able to find the Ramozim, to find the basis to read it in through the Ramozim. They had koiches and kishroinis and shaykhs to a Torah that we don't even have today. So they'll be able to see it in Aseres HaDibros, and they'll be able to be mevasis, be able to be me'amitz, and say, oh, Moshe Rabbeinu is correct. We have no doubt Moshe Rabbeinu is teaching because we found the hint in the Aseres HaDibros. Only then did the Rebbeinu Shalom agree to their request of Daber Ato imonu that Moshe should teach. This Rambam is very strange. Not to mention the fact that in Mitzrayim alone, Moshe Rabbeinu clearly proved himself to be the Novi Hashem, predicting the beginning and the end and the details of every makkah like clockwork. Not only was there such nisim gluyim that they saw at the day Moshe Rabbeinu on the Yam, that the Torah itself is made at the end of the Kriyas Yamsuf by Aminu Hashem and Moshe Avdoi. They believed in Hashem and in Moshe Rabbeinu as the Eved Hashem, as the Novi Hashem. Such credentials. And the Torah tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu was spoken to publicly for the very reason Ba'avur Yishma Ha'or V'dabri Yiboch V'gam L'chol Yaminu Lo'elam. I want to speak to Moshe publicly so everybody should hear that I speak to him and they'll believe in him as my Novi. They'll know that I have authorized him to teach the Torah as I teach it to him. Such credentials. Unprecedented, unequaled, unimaginable. Yet the Buri was afraid. I can't let Moshe Rabbeinu teach the whole Torah. Maybe they're going to have something. Maybe they're going to not be sure. Did he, didn't he, did he, didn't they say it over correctly? What? And it was only when they said, we can't handle it. And only because of the fact that they could check it out in the Aseres HaDibros, that it was merumas, all the mitzvahs were merumas, and they would be able to have a support source to what Moshe Rabbeinu teaches, to be sure that Moshe Rabbeinu got it right, because they would find the remnants and see, well, that's what Moshe said, that's what the remnants indicates. Okay, now we know it's for sure. Only then did the Rebbeinu Shalom agree to them that he's going to stop, according to the Rambam in the Aseres HaDibros, let Moshe Rabbeinu do this. Few things we see from the standard to which The Burial holds and concerns himself and assures the Amitius HaTorah. He wasn't going to allow any room for any something. Not the slightest. Meshachim, so reliable, so credentialed, so appointed publicly. Maybe, who knows, somebody could have something. This too will be given over in a way and it become clear to everybody that this is the Torah Hashem, and it's Moshe Mipi Havura, without any mokoim to consider any possibility of anything else. What's interesting though is that this Emes HaTorah was mevusas on one yesod, that Klal Yisrael will be able to discover for themselves in the Aseret HaTivros, to read that text and to know how to find there the remozim to everything that Moshe Rabbeinu is going to teach them, to be sure, no doubt, it's not going to be Piagura, it's not going to take us Emes. Moshe gives it over accurately, nothing to be concerned about. What's the implication of this Ramban for our world today? I believe that there's a very special implication that this Ramban has for you. I'd like to share it. The Amitius HaTorah is critical. The knowledge that this is Torah's Emes is critical. The strength of our commitment to the mitzvahs, to the Libud HaTorah, to Shmiras HaMitzvahs, to a dedication to a life of Torah mitzvahs, is very much dependent upon the clarity with which we know that the Torah is in fact Torah's Hashem. And the stronger the Messiah, the more we know. And the greater strength that we have to validate the Messiah gives us that extra measure of confidence. In our world today, we hear many things. We hear many opinions. We hear a vast, wide range of what one might call Das Torah. We have a lot of confusion. Who do you believe? Who do you listen to? How do you know? And if the standard for commitment to Torah is a standard of such secure and confident truth, what do we do? How do we know? Never forget, on a personal note, I guess I was always, since I was young, irreverent. It's one of my special outstanding qualities. And I remember at one point asking my Rebbe, after having worked on a shir, in those days in the Chaim Yeshiva, the shir was a chavaya, an experience. It was solid, a couple of weeks of hard work, real hard work. We had to work very hard. We tried to make the Rosh Hashiva work very hard too, to defend it, or communicate it and then defend it. And at one point, I finally thought I got it. I was still in Eretz at the time. She was in Eretz. I thought I got it. Finally. Oh, I can still feel the pain and the sweat. I got it. That new, reverent, young whippersnapper, I don't think it's that word today anymore, went over to his great Rebbe and asked him, I got it, Rebbe, but how do I know you're right? How do I know that you know what you're talking about? I know what you're talking about, but how do I know that you know what you're talking about? Fair question? What would happen today if we asked such questions? So that's easy. The truth is that at that moment, the Rosh Hashiva had my life in his hands. If he would have said to me, I know, that's what I'm getting paid for, that's my job, he would have even said, I had a great Rebbe, I learned from my Rebbe, he learned from his Rebbe, he learned from his Rebbe, and he traced it back with the names, which we could do, all the way to Moshe Mipi Agvura. It would have been out of there. I don't know where it would have been, but that's beside it. Wisdom, foresight, go ask him. Previous generation. See what they said. I did so. Shocked sometimes. From you're learned in Gan Eden, and that could have been an insult. I'm learning in Gan Eden. Maybe he was saying something, you're drunk or something, but no. It sounded to me like it was a comment. Who learns like this? Who could believe this? What are you talking about? Or, even more ridiculous than that comment, it can't be that Yeshiva Bachum can understand such a deep shir. I must be some kind of genius, which I never was and never will be, and I understood it, but nobody else did, which I knew wasn't true. I saw this man, this Rebbe, this Talmud Chacham, this humble man who didn't stand there and say, accept it because I say so and I know what I'm talking about. He knows what he's talking about. The Gedolei Rebbe of his generation and the previous generation, because he was a young man. And that gave that sense of conviction, that sense of truth. But there was another ingredient that was part and parcel of this approach to learning, which helped enormously in convincing me of the truth. And that was, we were trained to consult, to analyze, to master, to understand the texts, the primary texts, and to know not what interpretations to place into them, like my own ideas in the text, but what explanations to draw out of them to see what they're saying, what they're really saying, and how it fits with everything and is consistent with all the information that's available in the sugya, with all of the discussion, with all of the language, with all of the sequence, with every step of the way, everything fits, and the language is perfect. There's also a lot to say, even if the language wasn't perfect, it's just one of the rights, but everything fit. Oh, I could check out on my own in the text. I was trained to check the text. In fact, I must tell you, she used to cry sometimes. And he would say, he says, when the guys would attack like vultures, not like vultures. And he would say, leave me alone, what do you want? I taught you how to do this, what do you want for my life? Like it wasn't fair, I gave you these tools and you're supposed to use them on other people, not on me. This information, this ability to check the text, that's what it says. That's exactly what the Pnei Yehoshua is saying. It fits every detail, every ingredient, every word, every nuance, every hint, even the hint between the lines. It all fits. Now I have a source, as if I knew the Aseres HaDibros and how to find the Remozim in the Aseres HaDibros. No, that Moshe Rabbeinu was not speaking on his own, and the Balei Mesorah that he passed it down to were not giving me their own interpretations, but rather extracting and explaining and drawing forth from the text that which they're teaching. And I was able, through the text, to validate the words, the directives, the insights, and the inspiration, whether it was in Musa, whether it was in learning, whatever it was in Hashkofa, to be able to say, that's the truth. That's what Chazal say. That's what Rashi says. That's what the Sipurah says. That's what the Ramban says. That's it. This is when it sits to me. It's not an idea of a human being who I have to wonder, did he get it someplace wrong from his thought or his Rebbe's thought or his Rebbe's thought, or was it even Moshe Rabbeinu Mipi Agvura? But the text, because that's not possible. The text came from that. But the text, so such a source of chizuk. Such a. That's it. You people are very fortunate. You have been, you're being. Hopefully, you will continue to be trained in fine-tuning, in sharpening, in developing those skills. Those skills to be able to analyze the primary Torah texts and to see clearly from within, from the Gedolei of previous generations, from the Baalei Nesoiro whose Torah was studied by thousands and hundreds of thousands of Gedolei throughout the generations and passed on and accepted correctly and understood and explained and passed on to future generations. I on my own, and you on your own, are able to open up these texts and see. That's one. And then you're also fortunate. Because far too often in the world today, when someone asks a question that's too tied, that's too deeply involved in the text or in the sequence, and often the answer is, we can't go into that. What are you fetching? That was the best answer that I heard so far. And you're so privileged that you're being nurtured in a system which teaches, which preaches, which inspires, which guides this analysis, this thinking, this reading, this understanding, this internalizing, not interpreting, but explaining the texts. Therefore, we have the ability to take any piece of that Messiah, to any word from any Rebbe, and check it out. We don't have to accept it on blind faith, as the Rebbeinu Shalom did not want Klal Yisrael to accept, even from Moshe Rabbeinu. Check it out the text. Taught that analyze. What a gift, what a privilege, what an appreciation. When we say Birchas HaTorah, we should have in mind not only Asher Bo Charbonu Mikol Amin V'Nos Anonu Es Torosoi, Baruch Ato Hashem Noisei HaTorah. He continues V'Loshen Hoivet to give us the Torah every day. Because of the fact that we're privileged to know its system. Because of the fact that we're privileged to know how to read its words and understand its thoughts and its sequences. He's Noisei HaTorah. Ki Hashem Yitein Chochmo Mipiv Das V'Sfura. Every day, every moment, whenever we sit down to learn. Shreinu Mateicha. There's another interesting Rambam, and it seems strange in the context of the first one. Rambam says that before Kabbalas HaTorah, Hashem spoke to Klal Yisrael and says, "V'yisem liskula mikol ha'amim ili kol ha'oretz, v'atem tiyu li mamleches koyanim v'goy kodesh." And the Rambam explains Hashem wanted to let Klal Yisrael know that if they dedicate themselves to the Shmiras HaMitzvos, they will be Nishmar v'Nitzol Mikol Horois HaNechoros Lo V'Yalayim. They'll be guarded and saved from all the evil that could befall them. And then they will be Mechabev the Mitzvos, and they will be able to be, they'll be Merutza, they'll have this Rotzoin. The level of truth that we presented from the Ramban just a few moments ago is mind-boggling. Imagine standing in Har Sinai, and the Boirei Olam who had done all the Nisim in Mitzrayim, and all the Nisim on the Yam Suf, Masharoso, Shivcho Yechestu Bebuzi, didn't see the Nebuos. And we come to Har Sinai, and we hear the Boirei Olam speak directly to us. And we make sure that we're going to know that even though we requested that Moshe Rabbeinu should take over, it was only done in a way that we can make sure to validate everything Moshe Rabbeinu teaches us. So we have a Torah's emes being presented to us at Mount Har Sinai with a revelation for the Boirei Olam. that you'll be Nishma and Mitzvah. If you commit yourself to Torah, in order that there be a certain chavivus and a desire to accept the Torah. Otherwise, there could have been something lacking in their ability to accept clear emes bipi havura. But they had to appreciate also that there's a benefit for them. We have to also appreciate the benefits. Without that appreciation, we might someday or sometime or all time be confronted with the absolute truth, not be able to internalize it, accept it, or to begin to question and doubt it, because we don't first have this realization it's going to be how much it's going to do for us. And if you think this is not such a reasonable position, instead of have seen it good there, they should have been with the level of truth of this. But there's another interesting comment in the Quran. It says in Parshas Lech, if one wishes to influence a loved one to do something that's, in his lotion, tzar u'uzar, painful and bizarre and strange. Don't tell him what it is. First tell him the benefits, what he's going to gain from it. And only then tell him this is the thing I expect, which is painful and strange. And the raya he brings is from Avram Avinu with the bris milah. He says the Rebbeinu Shalom, when he entered the bris with Avram Avinu, did not tell him that there was an operation involved. Did not tell him he's going to have to cut. He told him you're going to have duyers coming out of you and you're going to be inherit Eretz Yisrael, and only then, and the Ralbag's Loshen is, the cheshek for the benefit, mitigate, calm, the pain and the strangeness of the act of cutting, risky. The one who brought Yitzchak on the Akedah and was brought so lishloy toisoy kidei lasis mitzoinecho. Not even just roso lasis mitzoin Hashem. That's one nusach. But the Rotz Hashem said shech. Not just I want to do the Rotz Hashem. Hashem said shech. I want to shech. Avraham Avinu had such love of Hashem that the Ralbag says that when he was told about the Akedah, he could have questioned. Maybe he misinterpreted the tzibur. And the Aleim La'olam meant something else. And it would have been a legitimate interpretation. But his Abbas Hashem was so overwhelming that he wouldn't even allow himself to think. Hashem said, Halei Elohim, the Mishkal Rishon is Halei Elohim, I rely on the Rebbeinu Shalom that he's going to not let me make a mistake. And he didn't even question, maybe I'm misreading it. Not only Esmo Lamarto Li Yitzchak Kor Chazor Amarto Li Halei Elohim. Even that he didn't even question, maybe he's misinterpreting it, which would have been a rational question based on the fact that he promised him that Yitzchak Kor Chazor. This Avraham Avinu is going to be affected by first hearing the benefits of the bris and only then being told the pain and the strangeness of what he has done. So I guess that it's also critical for us to appreciate the privilege it is to be able to study Torah. The privilege it is to be able to Torah. The privilege we have to have been taught and to have been mastered or mastering those skills which will allow us to open up any volume of Torah literature and be able to decipher the message in a real and a true and an accurate explanation, not interpretation of my own ideas being put into the text. What a privilege this is to appreciate the privilege. But the truth of the matter is that the privilege goes much further. We live in a world today where happiness is a hard commodity to come by. Not a very happy place. If you look at any of the rates, suicide, divorce, substance abuse, alcohol abuse, Not a very happy place. Not a very happy place. And even amongst the clothes, sometimes we wonder, are they really happy? How true? What is the source? What is the real issue in that happiness? Rashi says in Shir that we as Jews have a terrible problem. Says, we ask Hashem to reveal himself again, the Torah, as he revealed in our Sinai, with that neshiko, that intimate connection where he reveals the secrets of his Torah to us. Because the love and friendship, the closeness, the experience are more pleasurable. Rashi says, represents Mishnah, any kind of physical pleasure. The fact that we still have sin creates a problem. In fact, Jews have a harder time enjoying life than the rest of society. The rest of society, give them a couple of whatever it is they need. That's life. Not so. Not even the non-educated, not even the not-religious, the Jew who stood on Sinai. There reverberates within him a memory of Yishokei and Shikois Piru, of that Peh, of that Ani L'Doidi, and he feels it inside, and Toivim Doidecho Miyayin, from all of the pleasures of the world, they cannot satisfy that craving that I have, the Yishokei and Shikois Piru. Doomed to frustration. Are we doomed to unhappiness? Are we doomed to a life of misery together with the rest of human society and human civilization? She says a little bit later. When they when they delight in the study of Torah, Shom Maskirin Doido Miyayin Umeshur Avosavois. They remember the love that Hashem taught us in Sinai, that He showed us in Sinai, and the love that we express to Him following Him. In other words, we have a source. I would call it a source of deja vu, a source of where we mishtasheh, where we delight. And how can you delight in the Torah if not in feeling that sense of I have learned the tools and the keys to understand its depth, to understand its truth, to check out the words and the teachings of my rebellion, to be able to on my own come to that realization of this is the Dvar Hashem. How can you be a greater shach? Mishtashim B'Torah. All of a sudden, inside, we begin to remember. That's why I couldn't enjoy anything. The drink, the wine, the food, the pleasure didn't have satisfied. Because it was competing with a subconscious memory that never let me enjoy anything in this world. That's why the Jew is the head of every movement to do anything to improve society, to change society, to ruin society. He's been involved in everything. Because he's unrested. He's restless. He has to do something. He doesn't know what's life all about. He's mishtasheh b'Torah. This is what I've been looking for. This is what I've been waiting for. This is what it's all about. I remember my Sinai and that I that love that I expressed to us and teaching us His Torah. Love that we felt like Torah. Following Him into the midbar by saying Naaseh Koydem L'Nishma. Again, you people are so fortunate because the delight of Torah is really not powerfully related to the superficial acquisition of its information. The Torah is infinite in its depth. We say the Torah is Rechova Minayam V'Aruka Me'eretz Mido. It's wider than the ocean and longer than the circumference of the world. But there's no comparison to its depth, because there's nothing in the material world that can compare, that can be a moshel to the depth of the Torah, because it's infinite. And the closer that we get to infinity, I don't know if it's such a concept, we're getting closer to infinity, I'm not sure. There's the physicists about it. But whatever it is, if I just touch the surface, it doesn't necessarily it does wonders. I feel I have the tools to achieve a bit of emes. When I can, like the Chazon Ish writes, that Ein Kol Etzem. There is no sadness in the life. The Misha Tam Tom Tamo Emes. There's someone who once tasted the taste of truth. Learning those, even over those. The ability to see, the ability to think, to analyze, to think for yourself, to read the text, to check the text, to fight about the text, to challenge those that would question or misrepresent the text, and to stand up for your position until humbly you prove it. This delight, this only delight can satisfy us. This is what we have. Very, very unique privilege. So I say to you, comes this young time, we should really appreciate it. And that Messiah that you specifically so privileged to receive. How do we get to feel this way? Okay, nice. Maybe it's nice in the speech. Maybe it's nice in the speech. I'm not sure. But you feel this judge. First of all, I would like to suggest a few things. Number one, Shlomo Melech, the Chochom Mikol Odom, promised us, prophesied to us, that we in fact have this capacity. He says, this is the Klal Yisrael of the Golos. The fight the Golos 2,000 years came out from the Yehud Beis HaMikdash. We have this capacity. We have to be mishtasheh. We have to do it. We have to work. There's a melusa. There's a commitment and an effort to achieve that clarity, to achieve that truth, to achieve that depth. So don't think for a moment that we can't achieve. We can. But what do we have to do? First, I would like to suggest, there should be one bracha that we don't say as we're running into this medrash a few minutes later. And you know when we should be saying that bracha? Say Chaim Brisk. So he used to go every Sukkot morning to the Tzib. The best Esrei. One Sukkot didn't show up. Tzib even waited, and didn't show up. Tzib must be. It was a Shliti. Chaim must have had a peak book on the Tzib's Esrei. Tzib sat down, Suda, on the Mishnah. Till the middle of the night. And at 4 o'clock in the morning, finally, it was Masik Shmaitz Aliba the Hilchasa that he could explain to Reb Chaim that it's permissible to make the bracha on this Esrei. He says a shliach, and comes running. He starts to talk to the morning. He says, wait, I didn't say bracha. Tzib starts to overwhelmed with pain, with tears, with crying. This is a man who's destined to be mayor in Yisrael, like you, at 4 o'clock in the morning, didn't say Birchas HaTorah. 6 o'clock. But it shouldn't be when we're running into this. It should be when we're privileged. Baruch Atah Hashem, Hashem to the Mekor of all prophets. Elokeinu with that special relationship, Melech Olam. He's the Melech Olam. He has a lot more important things to do than to worry about me and you. Yet, Hashem lays in our Torah, it's no longer his. Do you know the lashon of the Torah? Forgive me, because I can't imagine what the pshat is in this, but that's what the Torah says. He says that before you say Birchas HaTorah should be mechaven that Hashem is bocha bor mikol amim, v'keravono ufnei Har Sinai, v'hishlion dvoro v'toich ha'esh, we heard directly from Hashem, as we mentioned. V'nosan lo teirosoi akdoisho, and he gave us his holy Torah. Klechem dosoi, the vessel of his desire. Beis Chayenu, it's the house, the foundation of our lives, like the Bible is the foundation. That's where we live. That's where our life exists. That he used to be Mishtashea in. That's the Lashon. The Rebbeinu Shalom gave us the Torah that he used to delight in, and now it's ours to delight in. What that means exactly? I could guess that maybe he can't pass in Schweiz a little bit Hilchos anymore, because if the Bezdin will pass in a halacha, and the Bezdin then they decide halacha, and the pastor comes and says, sorry, I disagree with you, we'll just politely and respectfully say, but he was saying how Torah, the Torah is ours. The Baruch Ber is quoted to have said that a day that he didn't cry when he said Amo Rabba, he couldn't be Machash. Amo Rabba, what is the Torah? The Torah is the expression of the greatest love from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He gave us his Torah. If we have time, I can come back to that, but that's something else. Avinu Malkeinu Babur Aloseinu Shebor Krucho. They always say, either they said Nasa and Nishma, some learn, or because they went left. What was the greatest expression of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's love to Klal Yisrael? He gave us the Torah, the blueprint of creation. It's Taka Boraisa Borahalo. All the koiches of creation, it's ours. We determine the halacha. If Bezdin passes the halacha, that's the way it is. If Bezdin is ma'abed Shono, then Psulei HaChoyzrim until Rosh Chodesh Nisan, even though she's 27 months old. But normally it would have been 26 months. The koich of Shemayim V'Aretz, the determinant of all the laws of nature. I'll never forget. I'll never forget that cold night in Yerushalayim, many years ago. After I got to know one of these Gedolim that Yeshiva had suggested I should go to share with him to see if he knows what he's talking about. Later became my father-in-law, and that's besides the point. And he was sitting in this cold Beis Medrash, this mamish. He at least had raincoats. Freezing, the well was freezing. They didn't even turn on. They had these kerosene ovens, they didn't even turn it on. When we finished learning, and stand up to leave, this man was the Welt thinks in Yiddish, the Welt thinks that the architects design the buildings, and the engineers build this, and the builders do this, and this one does this, and the doctors. What we're doing, what we did here, trying to figure out in the Dake Huir of Torah, that's Chukei Shomayim V'Oretz there on that. If like Risi started to cry, and like Risi, Chukei Shomayim V'Oretz like something. If not for the Torah, then Yom V'Layla, Chukei Shomayim V'Oretz, all the law of nature wouldn't exist. They only exist because of the Torah. That's all that exists. In HaKadosh Baruch Hu's world, this doesn't exist, this doesn't exist, this doesn't exist. Only the Da'at HaShalom. That's all there is. There is nothing else. When we finish that book, before we make Kabbalah Malchus Shemayim, because we appreciate what the Torah is, we say, Baruch Hashem, we gave us this. All the chokhmah of the world. The world today, I just saw something, I can't even remember, every day you see something else. They just discovered that, what? was saying just off by a few days. So they asked this talking about he thought it was up in the New York Times. He said, well, you know, science is catching up. This is it. It's all here. And you're not privileged to have it. You're not only privileged that the Rebbeinu Shalom was lacing, but you've been given the Yesod, the tools with which to understand the Torah, the tools with which to delve into the Torah, to extract from it its truths, rather to superimpose into it our ideas. Ashreinu b'Teichel, Ashreichem, Zoichem. Next days of graciousness, all of experience of revisiting and reliving and appreciating the anniversary of Kabbalah.